Why do we need to render a JavaScript enabled website? Hi, I'm Gary. Welcome to our very first Takeoff session. Today, we'll be talking about page performance in time of the mobile first indexing. Here with me is Benj Arriola, the SEO director of Myers Media Group based in San Diego. Let's talk about page performance, Benj. If I am a developer or an SEO, should I be worried about this mobile first indexing execution of Google?
You know what the beauty of this is? Before the mobile first indexing even came out, Google even forewarned everybody that mobile websites is a ranking factor. They mentioned that way ahead of time and they gave a specific deadline. So when the mobile indexing came out, a majority of SEOs were really prepared for it. Now, is there still any difference with that preparation? I would say if you were prepared ranking well for mobile search before, most likely you are prepared already today.
For quite some time, we've been talking about responsive design. We've also considered adaptive design on websites. While others went ahead and used separate mobile sites, are there other things that we need to be concerned about when implementing any of these mobile design approaches?
And that is a good question. You know, when you talk about responsive design, I think it's almost like a standard. Everyone should be doing it today. Everyone should be using responsive sites. On the mobile site and the desktop site has a single URL. You've been mentioning, the other techniques, adaptive and
a
separate mobile website. Those work as well. The difference though is you have more than a one URL to optimize. And when you have one URL to optimize, it's way easier. There's no more switching. There's no more detecting of user agent, no more detecting if it's Googlebot or a user. You just have a single website controlled by the resolution of the page. That is the ideal situation. But I also realized that companies can't just switch over right away.
Correct.
Some are very challenged by their platform. It could be a resource issue. It could be a technology issue. It could be additional costs that companies just don't have at the very moment, and they have to work with what they have.
Okay. Well, speaking of those who have been prepared with mobile first indexing, responsive design has been the most popular choice. However, when done wrong, having responsive design can also affect the speed of the website, and that impacts user experience negatively. What are your tips for SEOs and developers regarding this?
That is a good question. Sometimes when you create the mobile website, when there's a separate one compared to using a responsive design, the beauty of that is you could dumb down, I don't know if that's a right term for it, but dumbing down the version of your website is almost like removing other features that clutter the page. When it's too much clutter, what happens is you're just confusing the user with so many options in a very small screen. Well, when you have a mobile website and you just only highlight the features that are really needed by a mobile user, and the website owner could do their own corresponding research, what are the options that mobile users really click on the most? What are the main uses? What do their target audience actually is looking for when they're accessing their mobile site? And focus on those alone, and the rest you could hide. Now, in a responsive site, sometimes people design it where all the options that are on your mobile desktop site is exactly the same one in your mobile site.
Correct.
Now, that clutters it too much.
Yes.
But you can still create responsive design websites where large features of the site could be minimized just using a collapsible div, using your hamburger menu, and collapsing features that are not used that much and displaying the features that are used.
If doing that Benj, will serving a different content on desktop and a dumbed down content on mobile impact your search rank? Will this confuse Google on which is which? Or will this also penalize you or something?
That is a good question again. Because first is on the back end side, all the content that Google sees is actually both it's going to see both the desktop version and the mobile version all together at the same time when it is responsive. But there are some elements that are hidden. Now, how does Google treat hidden content? Sometimes Google penalizes you for hidden content, but Google claims that they know if you're hiding it for the right reasons. Very true, very simple example, a drop-down menu. Click on something, something drops down. Not all of that is displayed. Portions of it are hidden until you click on it or until you hover it. And when Google sees that that is the right reason, then it doesn't penalize you for those types of content that is hidden. And that was just a simple example. This could happen on large paragraphs of the page. Now, with experience and asking multiple people from Google and also talking to actually manual reviewers, usually Google can't determine if you're really hiding content for the right reason right away.
Right away, yes.
Sometimes they find it at a later point in time, or sometimes people report it using the Google Spam Report. And when they use the Google Spam Report, they end up with manual reviewers. And when manual reviewers look at it, they are the ones that will evaluate if you're really hiding the content for the right reason or the wrong reason.
Okay, so essentially you're saying that it's just okay to dumb down or hide some of your content on mobile in order to improve user experience as long as you're not doing anything shady about it.
Yeah.
Okay, the other reason why we are talking about page performance on mobile is because a lot of SEOs, when evaluating the performance of a website, they just plug their page to Google PageSpeed and they simply look at the score. Is it 62 over 100, 85 over 100? But what about on mobile or desktop? Why is it that SEOs and developers should work together further to fix all of these issues?
Okay. So first is when we talk about the PageSpeed tool, this is, you can just Google PageSpeed tool. And it will pop up with the right URL. What you basically see when it scores out, it will give all the recommendations. Most of them are directed to developers. Now, what I would say would be the common ones. There's the images, JavaScript, consolidation of CSS files. There's the minification. These are very common. Now, if you look at these and you're talking to a developer and how they develop that, these are just a few extra steps for them to do. Now, sometimes in the mindset of a developer, I'm done with this project, I completed it, why do I have to fix it? The page loads fine, users could use it, there's nothing broken. Why should I worry about these? Minifying the code makes it even more harder to understand for me as a developer. All the spaces are disappeared. But if you show them the value and they understand why it's done, they understand why it's needed for SEO, then they will agree to work on this.
Speaking of JavaScript, what other things that SEOs and developers themselves should look into and be aware of whenever they use this type of technology in providing their website or creating a website?
Yeah, once we talk about JavaScript, this becomes a problem many times. JavaScript is a client-side programming language, or scripting language would be more accurate. It runs on your browser, it doesn't run on the server. When Google looks at your page, it may not see the content right away because it needs to render in a browser. Since Google is not a browser.
Okay, let me stop you with that. When you say render, could you further explain that to them on what do you mean when you say render? Because back in the days when we talk about page performance, we rarely talk about render, right? Why do we need to render a JavaScript-enabled website?
Yeah. When we say AngularJS, that is actually a framework made in JavaScript. There are many other frameworks. They also have similar problems. Now, when it's rendered, that means JavaScript code has to run on the browser before the content can be seen.
Okay.
Now, Google is typically not a web browser. It crawls as Googlebot. When a crawler is identified by the server, it doesn't see a browser ID. It sees a crawler bot, which is Googlebot. Now, in the past, it was a bigger problem because all search engines didn't care about JavaScript. It will not even run it at all. But there was a time when Google started announcing that they have a headless browser. What is that? It's a browser without an interface. What happens is they run JavaScript code and they render it in the same way as a user sees it before it decides to read the content. So that way, Google could see the content. So it sounds like the problem is solved.
Yes.
However, Google doesn't do it consistently. There are still some times when Google can't show it at all or can't find the words on the page. I don't know if it's a timing thing or it's just incapable when your JavaScript is too
Are
complicated.
you saying that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work?
Yes.
Okay. So proactively as a developer and an SEO, what are you supposed to do with this one? Because you wouldn't want to hang yourself in a balance or just wait for it if it happens or not. You don't want to be at the mercy of how Google will crawl or render your website. What are the things that you're supposed to do?
So I totally agree. You have to be prepared for it. You don't want to gamble with Google to hope and pray. Google, could you read my content or not? Hopefully you can. You really have to create a site that even if you're using these JavaScript frameworks, that Google could still read them. And there's multiple ways you could do that. I would say if I would classify this into three, I would say pre-render it yourself and show a pre-rendered copy to Google, or build it in a way where both the JavaScript content and server-side content is also given together but behind the JavaScript. And then the last way is just don't use it at all and just use plain HTML.
One of the things that I observe when visiting the website is that the page loads too slow because of the fonts that were used. It really affects user experience. What is your advice in using heavy fonts so as not to affect user experience?
First thing is, when it comes to large paragraphs of text, we don't want to stray away from the standard fonts that are readily available within the site. Available in local computers, like the common Times New Roman, Arial, Verdana, sans serif, and all those. But if you're going to use them for headings, sometimes we want to add a little bit more style there. You could add your own font files. Now, some are very large, some are very small. Preferably, we use the smaller ones, and there are a number of techniques that you could test. The most common is using CSS3, giving your font file.
CSS3,
yeah. And you could also use Google Fonts, which it almost acts like a CDN or a content delivery network at the same time. And Google is known to have fast infrastructure, so that could also possibly help load faster. Other things that you might want to test out, even simple image text replacement where you just use an image instead. And although that's not scalable because you always have to make a new image the whole time, but if it's pretty standard, won't be changing that much, have an image, put the text behind it. Using CSS, you could even still use a heading tag for it and put it as a background of your heading tag. That could also work.
Okay, so essentially you're saying that it's not all about this style, but it's also about how users experience the content that you load there on your page. Something that's also observable, I noticed that there are brands that come up with a lot of marketing campaigns, but when you visit their website, you don't see these campaigns. They may have some brand awareness campaigns, social media ads, etc. But when you search for it, you can't find it. Have you experienced this?
Yeah, this is actually just recently. This was actually yesterday.
Great.
I was just in search of a vacuum cleaner. And when I searched for that in Google, it was only one main site that was ranking well, both on the paid side and the organic side. And they are not even the seller. They are more of a site that sells multiple products.
Wow.
And the companies that actually sell the product, they were not optimized pretty well. I started searching for these big appliance stores for the vacuum cleaner. There was one that didn't have solid navigation. It was using search results as a page. And Google doesn't search box. They don't search in internal search. Google doesn't type in the search box. There was a site that had broken navigation where they had a privacy policy that kept popping up that I couldn't visit any other page. So there are many sites that are not even prepared for it, considering that they are very large companies. And if you're a large company and something like that is not happening, then you're losing a lot. You're losing a lot from your business.
pretty much the search engine optimization is a requirement for whenever you do digital. Is it, or or should it be like just an afterthought?
I would say it is a requirement. And just to see how important this is, the search industry compared to every other marketing medium, let's just compare it to TV, let's compare it to radio, to the newspaper. You advertise there in the hopes that your target audience is actually watching you. When I see a TV commercial, sometimes I just go to the restroom.
Okay.
And that is already marketing dollars wasted. Your target audience is not actually watching. Now, in the search market, people are actually searching for you. They're already searching for your product. That's a large percent of the sale is already done. Just the fact that they're looking for your product, you just have to be there for them. And if you're not there, then it's another lost opportunity.
Because it's search behavior is part of the customer journey. Sometimes, even when a customer is already in the store talking to a sales supervisor, he will still take out his phone to check the reviews of the product. That is why your page performance on mobile is important. It's because when people search on what they needed to know about your product, even if they're already in the store, you gotta be there, right? And providing them the right information.
True. And sometimes it's not just about the reviews and ratings. Sometimes it's about also your competitors that sell the exact same product.
Yes, they may say that, okay, I would rather go for this brand X than my brand because it seems that your competitors came up with a very good explanation or a very good page about explaining their product, providing those answers to those queries of that potential customer.
Yes.
So if you are not optimizing for mobile, or you're not even actually present on the mobile world, then that could be a loss of income or a loss of revenue for you.
Totally agree.
Okay. So Benj, what's in your toolbox whenever you try to audit a website and understand the page performance of such? And why are these tools necessary to improve search experience?
Well, one of my favorite tools would be crawling tools. So I would say free ones would be Xenu with an X. That's only for Windows though. Screaming Frog is free for the first 500 pages. After that, it's gonna be paid. And then there's even more expensive tools like Deep Crawl and Botify. The beauty of these crawling tools is for very large sites, they could comprehensively go through thousands and thousands of pages, determine what the problems are. Either they're not loading, error 404s, error 500s, improper redirecting pages, pages with duplicate title tags, no meta descriptions, short, long title tags, and many more. Even page speed issues could be done by these tools instead of just manually doing one page at a time using Google's page speed tests. So using these tools, they could comprehensively look at thousands and thousands of pages all at the same time. And when you find patterns on the site, sometimes you find out bigger picture issues that could be fixed at a global scale.
Okay, that's all folks. That ends our discussion about page performance in time of mobile-first indexing. And thank you, Benj Arriola, for giving your time for us to discuss all about page performance, which is very important for SEOs and developers and at the same time business owners. Ask us questions, suggest topics, like and subscribe to our channel, and see you next time.